Hi again, Mark here from talkingbass.net. This week I'm going to be giving a little lesson on the topic of ghost notes or muted notes. I've already covered this technique in the slap bass series, but I wanted to show how they can work more from a common finger picking perspective. If you've not already been over to talkingbass.net, then go check it out. There's loads more lessons, articles and downloads, and you can subscribe to receive updates on new lessons, and you'll also be able to receive the free scale reference guide ebook. So make sure to check it out. There's at least one new lesson per week, and there's a very structured lesson map over at the website that can make navigating through them a lot easier. Okay, so let's take a look at these ghost notes. These are those little muted notes that you hear in funk bass lines, and on their own they sound like this. Okay, so just a muted thud of a sound that's pretty useless on its own. But put it in a line and you're likely to get something more like this. So first of all, let's try out a ghost note in isolation, okay? So all you need to do is lay the whole hand lightly over the strings and pluck, like this. Okay, simple as that. So we'll pluck one on the A string first. So you can see that I'm holding the hand over there. I've got all the fingers there, all laid down just lightly across the string. So if I was to play an open string, there like that, and then if I bring the hand down slowly, okay, there's the ghost note, okay? And you'll be able to see that my little finger there, or the pinky, is roughly over that 5th fret. Now that doesn't really matter, you can play these ghost notes anywhere, so you'll be able to hear the harmonics move slightly as I move the hand, but as you can see, anywhere, any string. Also, a little tip on picking, you can pluck anywhere along the string to get these ghost notes. So there, neck pickup, bridge pickup, over the neck if you want. But I find it actually works out best for this kind of funk kind of playing if you pluck back here nearer the bridge. So if you've got a bridge pickup, then you pluck over there, and if not, just pluck anywhere around that area. Okay, so there's that ghost note. If I was to pluck closer to the neck, I get less of that tight attack. That's the neck. Okay, so now let's try ghost notes on every string. So we'll start on the E string, okay? So hand relaxed over there. Okay, so now A string, D string, G string, D string, A string, E string. And you'll notice that each one's got its own sound, a little bit like drums. You know, drums, toms don't have very defined specific pitches. On the face of it, they sound just very percussive. But listen a bit closer, and they do actually have a pitch to them. And it's the same here. You can hear it going up in fourths. So that's the basic technique and sound of the ghost note. Now let's try mixing them up a little. So first of all, I want you to play a very basic rhythm on a C here at the 3rd fret of the A string. So we're going to use a dotted 1/4 note rhythm, or dotted crotchet quaver, like this. Okay, so you just want to try that. Now what I want you to do is cut that first note a little short, okay? So it's only going to be held for one beat. So we get this. Okay, so I'm using this left hand to cut that note short. There. Now I want you to play the second note as a ghost note. So we get this. Okay, so I'm playing that first C, bringing the hand down to choke the note, and then just leaving it held there for the ghost note. Okay. In terms of the picking hand, I'm picking that main C with the second finger or middle finger, and then I'm plucking the ghost note with the first finger or index finger. Okay, so we have. let's try the same thing on the E string. So we'll use the G here at the 3rd fret of the E string. So we have. And you'll notice when you play these ghost notes after the fretted note, the motion, let's say on that C, I play the fretted note, then when I choke it, the pressure's released on that 1st finger. And it really is the 2nd and 3rd finger that are doing a lot, well, the bulk of the mute. The 4th finger's just in here to reinforce it. So without the 4th finger, we still do get the mute, but the 4th finger just adds a little bit more to it and just a bit more consistency, because sometimes you might hit a harmonic. When you put all the fingers down, that disappears. So now let's try the D string. So we'll try the F here at the 3rd fret. So now let's try the B flat here at the 3rd fret of the G string, okay? Now let's speed up the tempo a little and move along those strings, okay? So we'll start at the E string and then just move across one by one, okay? Okay, and a little quicker. You'll find that when you're crossing these strings, the ghost note before the move is going to still be on the string, the preceding string, okay? So we've got the G there, and then the muted note, the ghost note, is on the E string, and the fretted note is on the A string, okay? So I'm playing the ghost note on the E string, the fretted note on the A string, and then the ghost notes are on the A string from that point. Ghost note on the A string, fretted note on the D string. Ghost note on the D string. Same again, ghost note on the G string there. And then we've got the 2nd finger there taking the D string, okay? So each time I'm using the ghost note to cross over. Now I want you to slow the tempo back down to our original speed and play the ghost notes a 16th note or semiquaver later, okay? So that sounds a little bit complicated, but it'll sound like this, okay? So before we were playing 1 and 2, and now we've got the semiquaver before. Or 16th note. So we're really leading into the next note. I mean, we were leading in before, but now we're just skipping into that next fretted note. Okay, and it takes a little bit more concentration with the fretting hand. Okay, so let's start with the E string and work across as we did before. So we've got the G, the C, the F, and the B flat. Okay, so. So this kind of rhythmic pattern gives us a hint at how we can use these ghost notes. Now they're mainly used to rhythmically lead into a note. So if I play a standard kind of funk groove, you can hear how each ghost note is an embellishment of the line, okay? So here it is with ghost notes. Now without. So you can hear how those main principal notes still work without the ghost notes. They simply add a feeling of propulsion by filling in some of that dead space. Now they can also help you to really feel the time by adding more subdivisions into the equation, but we'll come to that later. So now let's go back to our original exercise and we'll add another ghost note in there. So we've got two ghost notes leading back into the note, and that sounds like this on a C at the 3rd fret of the A string. Okay, and much slower. Finger picking wise, I'm playing the first note with the first finger, and then I'm playing first finger, second finger for the two ghost notes. So we have first finger, 1, 2, and then back in. 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1. So now let's build up some speed. So we'll start slow and then slowly build up, okay? A little quicker. A little quicker. And a little quicker. Now let's try that same basic exercise of working across the strings at the 3rd fret, okay? So we'll start with the G on the E string, okay? So you should now be able to work through a basic chord progression using a pattern with these ghost notes to add a little bit of drive. So the pattern that we're going to use sounds like this. We're going to start on the C there. So we've got C, then ghost note C, C. Okay, so and then we've got the two ghost notes and then C, so. So the two ghost notes lead us back to the beginning of the cycle, okay? So once again. Now let's move that pattern through the chord progression. So we're going to have C for 2 bars, F for 1 bar, and G for 1 bar. We'll play the C here, 3rd fret on the A string, F, 1st fret on the E string, and G, 3rd fret on the E string. Okay, so that'll sound like this. So start out as slow as you need to and just build up speed. Then once you've mastered playing a basic comp pattern like this, try incorporating these ghost notes into other similar chord progressions that you might be playing. It's simply a technique of leading into the note with the ghost note. So now let's try something a little bit more tricky. This time we're going to try muting with individual fingers rather than the whole hand, okay? And that'll give us a little bit more freedom to play some of these funky lines. So I want you to take a really basic finger pattern of 1st finger, 2nd finger, 3rd finger, 4th finger. And we're going to start it at this C here at the 3rd fret of the A string. So the pattern's going to sound like this. Okay, so it's going to be the C, then we're going to mute with it and play the C sharp, so the 4th fret, lift off slightly to mute, play the note, ghost note, then the next finger, mute with that, and then the next one, and then come back down, mute with the 3rd finger, down, mute with the 2nd finger, down, mute with the 1st finger, down, okay? So very slowly. A little quicker. And a little quicker. And a little quicker. When you play this line, you want to be using the preceding fingers to help out with the mute. Now you'll see what I mean as I demonstrate it. So if I was to play that first C there, fretted, and then just mute by lifting it up, I get that harmonic, and I don't want that. So when I want to mute to move up to the C sharp, I bring the finger up slightly, just relax it, but keep it there in that muted position, and then bring the 2nd finger down for the mute. So the mute itself is using the 1st and 2nd fingers, not just the 1st finger. Okay, so we have C, 2nd finger comes down, and then the C sharp. We always want a finger behind it to help out with this, otherwise you get these open harmonics, okay? So we have C there, 2nd finger comes down, mute, C sharp. Then I can actually just use those 2 fingers again for the mute. Then the D comes down with the 3rd finger. Then I can use that 1st, 2nd and 3rd finger for the mute before I bring down the 4th finger there. Okay. Now as before, let's try crossing the strings. Okay, so starting on the 3rd fret of the E string, we have A string, D string, G string, so now let's move back to the A string, the C pattern, and we'll try incorporating 2 ghost notes, which gives us this pattern. Okay, so again, take it slow. Now we'll try across the strings. A string, D string, and G string. Once we've got this simple digital kind of pattern under our fingers, we can move on to some more usable patterns like scales. So we'll take this C major scale here at the 3rd fret of the A string, and we'll incorporate some ghost notes. So the first pattern's going to sound like this. So I'm just skipping into each note with the ghost note. Now let's try with 2 ghost notes. So once we're a little bit more comfortable with playing these ghost notes in this way, we can move on to some more funky bass lines, okay? So we'll start with a really famous example of December 63, Oh What a Night by the Four Seasons, okay? So the bass line goes like this. Now it's in D flat, so first of all, have a look at a D flat major scale. and the fingering starting on the second finger there. So the first three notes are going to be D flat, E flat, and F. Okay, and we're going to put a ghost note between each one, so we get this line. So we're playing second finger, fourth finger, first finger, putting ghost notes between each one. D flat, E flat, F. Finger picking wise, I've started with the first finger and then played the first finger for the ghost note, and then the E flats with the second finger and the Fs with the second finger. So that both ghost notes are with the first finger. You could start with the second finger, but I just find that I always start these major scales with a first finger. So slower. Then we have a ghost note and then a G flat. And a repetition on the G flat. Then we have two ghost notes. And a G flat with another ghost note. Okay, so I'll play that part slowly. Okay. And if you have any problems with this line, then just make sure to download the PDF of all the lesson material, and this riff's in there. So instead of just going over and over all the different individual notes, follow along with the PDF and then just watch along with the video to give you an idea of how to play it. So once we're up to this A flat, we play down to the A flat, an octave below, and then just lead up back to the tonic. So we have the A flat, B flat, C, and we're back at D flat. So all together. Okay, and you'll see that sometimes my fretting hand does change slightly depending on how I'm kind of feeling. It's more of an automatic thing. I'm actually moving up with that first finger from that seventh, the C, up to the D flat. So don't worry about it particularly. As long as you're getting all the notes right, the rhythm's fine. If you have any problems, then just take it apart and make sure that you're not having any strange finger patterns coming in there. But you know, as long as the pattern's working, then everything's fine. So now we have that line under our fingers. Let's start out slow, and then I'll just build up speed with it. Okay? So really slow. A little quicker. And a little quicker. So now we've got that riff nailed, we can try it with the drum track. So that's the drum beat that starts out the song. There'd normally be a piano riff there. So now let's move on to another funk example that we can build on. Okay, so this line is going to be over an E7 chord. Okay, and we're going to be using a cross between an E blues scale, E Dorian, and E Mixolydian, just so we've got a combination of the minor major third kind of thing and a major sixth in there. But that'll make sense as we play it through. So the line sounds like this. Okay, so we've got an open E, which is a dotted quaver, semiquaver, or dotted 8th note, 16th note rhythm, before before the beat there. Then we're going to cut that short and then play a ghost note, and then follow that with a C sharp, 4th fret of the A string to 5th fret of the A string, the D, okay? So the first D's held, the second one's cut short, okay? And the ghost note can be either played on the E string or the A string. On the E string, it sounds like this. So we've got. On the A string, it sounds like this. Slower. With the E string ghost. So even though we're going to use this bass line to build on, and we're going to add rhythms to it, each time I introduce one of these rhythms, just mess around with it and just move it around the neck. So even though we've got this initial groove of, if we move it around a little, or just moving it around, messing around, just using that particular rhythm, okay? And that's because the rhythm of each of these bass lines is really the essence of the actual groove itself. So now let's add another little lick into that riff. So we're going to get this line. Okay, so this time we're going ghost note and then C sharp to D on the G string there, 6th fret to 7th fret. And then we're going to play the ghost note again on the D string and then play the G 5th fret there on the D string. So the whole thing slow. And you have a choice of playing the ghost note either on the G string, like this. Okay. Or we can play the ghost note down here on the A string. So we have ghost note on the A or ghost note on the G string. Okay. Okay, so now let's try that with a drum beat, okay? Okay. Now let's try adding 2 ghost notes in there for a little variation on this, okay? So we're going to have 2 ghost notes and then into a G and an A and a G, okay? So it sounds like this. And I'm hammering on from the G to the A and then just playing the G back there. So this is the 3rd fret to the 5th fret to the 3rd fret on the E string, okay? So again, slow. I'm playing the 2 ghost notes on the E string. Now let's try it with the drum beat. Now I'll try moving it around a little. So now I'm going to try a little variation on the riff, the initial riff, and then build up slowly on it over the drum beat, okay? So we're going to play... So we're cutting the C sharp short and putting a ghost note between the C sharp and the D. So we have, as opposed to the original, where we had the C sharp to the D with no ghost note. And we're playing the ghost note on each time on the E string, okay? So I'm going between the E string and the A string for the ghost note. And each time I'm going to add an extra note, and we're going to put a ghost note between that and the riff, okay? So with the drum beat. Now I want you to add an E here at the 7th fret of the A string and with a ghost note. So we have. And now I'm going to add the G up at the top on the 5th fret of the D string, and the E 7th fret again on the A string. So we get this. Now I'm going to put a ghost note between the G and the E. Okay? So when we do this, we can end up adding quite a lot of rhythmic density. So that final riff sounded like this. Okay, without those ghost notes, it'd sound like this. With ghost notes. So we've got a lot of rhythmic density there. We've got a lot of movement, and it all depends what you're going for. There's a lot of bounce there, and obviously it can end up sounding a bit silly. You end up with lines that are like, you know, just bouncing and bouncing all over the place. And so you've got to be quite tasteful with this. You don't want to just go overboard with all the ghost notes, because you can actually distract, take away from the groove. You want to be, you know, everything that you do with the ghost notes wants to improve that groove. You don't want to be, you know, cocking everything up with it. There's also a kind of funky effect that you can get with these ghost notes that kind of imitates a funk guitar with that kind of wacka 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 sound. Now if I take a basic E up here, the 9th fret of the G string, and take a basic rhythm like this. The actual rhythm that I'm playing with the note is. But I'm putting ghost notes in there to get a consistent stream of notes. So we have. So I'm just filling in the gaps with the ghost notes. Now, if you've ever heard or played the disco classic Car Wash by Rolls Royce, you'll know this sound from the intro, which sounds like this. Okay, so that's that funky wah wah wacka wacka sound again. So here's a line using that kind of wacka wacka funk sound, coming down an E a minor pentatonic scale and coming back up an E blues scale. So the line sounds like this. So the notes I'm coming down, E, 9th fret, E, G string, then the D, 7th fret on the G string, B, 9th fret on the D string, A, 7th fret on the D string, and then the G, the 5th fret on the D string. Between them we have these ghost notes. So we have two ghost notes before the A there. No ghost note between the A and the G. Then down to the D, 5th fret on the A string. Now we come up the E blues scale, so we've got the E there, 7th fret on the A string, G, 5th fret on the D string, then A, again 7th fret on the D string, A sharp, 8th fret on the D string, and then the B there, 9th fret on the D string. So, and then finally the D to bring us back around, 7th fret on the G string. So we've got. Okay, so we've got the two ghost notes between the A and the A sharp there. So again, this is all in the PDF, so work through that. So building up to speed, we have. Now a little quicker. And a little quicker. Okay, I hope that helps with working out some more funky sounding lines and can add a little bit of propulsion and drive to your playing. Please like this video and subscribe and add a comment if you enjoyed it. And as I mentioned before, check out talkingbass.net for more stuff and all the lesson material downloads, and subscribe for updates on the new lessons. Okay, so I'll see you later.